Hello friends, in this video let's talk about terminology. So what are all the terms we regularly use in RDBMS or in MySQL development or implementation? See, every technology has its own terms. If you go to programming language, we call it as a program, we call it as a statement, we call it as a function or subprogram and so on. Similarly, when you come to the database, MySQL or RDBMS or in any RDBMS side, so the terms mostly the same. Maybe one or two new terms might be coming in the new RDBMS, but most of the terms might be the same. So first of all, these terms you need to be familiar when you go to the specific RDBMS. The first one is a server. So server. So MySQL is nothing but a RDBMS which holds the data, which holds the relational data. So to hold the data, you need a place, you need a server, you need a system. So that is nothing but a server. So once the server is ready, then you need to install or you need to configure RDBMS. RDBMS or MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server or Teradata, whatever it is. So once this is ready, then only you can go for the next level. First of all, server, we call it as a server. So once the server is configured with RDBMS configuration and so on, then the client can enable and he can do the inserts, updates, whatever he wants. Okay, so once the server is ready, then you will be creating database. So a single server can have multiple databases. So let's say you are working on a academic project. So academic project might be having several modules. Let us say students. You can put students as a one database. Teaching staff or staff is a separate database. Staff contains teaching staff, non-teaching staff, something like that. And next one is fee collection or salaries, something like that. You can put it salaries and fee collection, you can put it in a separate DB saying that amount, something like that. So within a single server you can handle and you can manage multiple databases. So like an entire academic thing you can manage in a single server, which has been classified with a different databases. So if you see server contains multiple databases, then what database contains? Database contains multiple tables. So tables contains data. Let us say employees, how many employees are there? So 1000 employees in a specific academic project, or like 10,000 students are there in a specific academic project. So like that. So what table contains? So table contains columns. So what is column actually here? So when you take a specific employee, let us say employee, so he might be having a name, he might be having a date of birth or age, something like that. Age, he might be staying in a different location or or like a location, something like that. I'm simply keeping some dummy columns. See here, so I cannot put all in a one word. So employee Raj, I cannot put like this. So Raj, employee name, age is some 30 and location is some London. I cannot put like this. So I need to differentiate with a specific thing actually. Name I need to differentiate with a separate identification. Age I need to differentiate with a specific identification, and even location as well. So that is the reason why I am keeping employee details in three different things. So those I'm going to call it as a columns. So every employee having these three fields mandatory, because he might be coming from a specific location, he might be having some age, and he should be referenced with some name. So those are columns. So now let's come to the new term rows. See, when you go to the employee table, so not only Raj, not only the employee. So academic has 1000 employees. Okay, so Raj is a one employee, is nothing but a one record, one row. So one more is James, is a one more record. So like that we have 1000 employees, Raj, James, Kate and so on. So the next word is rows actually. If you see what are all the other terms we talked about. So we talked about server, we talked about databases, tables, columns, rows. So these are the mandatory thing to manage the database, to manage the system. So the next ones are, so based on the need, you need to add these things actually. But most of the cases we'll be adding something else to it. So we'll be adding some primary keys. See, what is primary key? So you need to identify each employee with a specific thing actually. So you can identify the employee by using employee ID. You can add some employee ID, something like that. Or you can add different name, something like that. So each and every employee need to identify with a specific number or specific thing actually. So you should not be giving a same ID to a different person. Let us say, so Raj has 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should not be giving, so to the James also the same 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is not acceptable. So actually it is a rule, but if I add this employee ID to the primary key, then it won't accept the same number again in the same table. So it automatically resets the James record because first Raj inserted, then if it go to the, when you try to add James, it doesn't insert. Why? Because it is a primary key. Primary key is nothing but it doesn't allow duplicates. First thing. Second thing is it doesn't allow nulls also. You should not be keeping empty in the employee ID column. So James should reference with a some ID. Maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 is not allowed, and you should be giving some number. Whatever the number which is suitable to the James, you should give that number to the James. Otherwise, my system doesn't allow. So you are adding an extra check in the database itself. So every employee should come with a employee ID. Otherwise, it is very difficult to identify the people when the system grows. If your company contains only 3 people or 10 people, then you can pronounce with the names. That doesn't give any problem. But if the company grows to hundreds, thousands, then it becomes a very big problem. That is the reason why you need to put some customized rules on the databases. So that is the reason why primary key system itself is by default giving the feature. So primary key. So but primary key I can set it only for one column, either employee ID or whatever the column you want. So you need to give only one column. Only one column. I can make it. But there are cases you cannot differentiate the employees or students with a single column. You need a combinational columns. So that time you need to go for a compound key. So compound key. So that time, so you can add 2 columns. Let us say empid plus location is a compound key. So now you will be differentiating the employees based on this uniqueness. Here the unique behavior you will be keeping on employee ID only, but here you are keeping unique behavior on the top of employee ID and location. Now, so if you see Raj, if you take out only this column, so 3, 4, 5, 6 I cannot add here. That is the reason why I made it as 6, 7, 8, 9. But when you go to compound key, you should be adding 2 columns, let us say. So now location is London. In this case, London, let us say London, and 3, 4, 5, 6 is not possible. Why? Because location and employee ID should be unique. Here if I keep it as something USA, then it works because employee ID is even same, but the location is different. The combination is different actually. The combination is not unique. If you see USA plus 3, 4, 5, 6 and London plus 3, 4, 5, 6 is not duplicate value. The combination is not a duplicate. That is the reason why the combination is unique. That is the reason why its system allows to add this record to the table. So this is nothing but a compound key. So the next one is like this. So these are all the kind of business rules which you need to impose on the database or on the system while designing a database. So like this, you have a foreign keys, you have indexes. If you want to, like there is a table which contains millions of records, thousands of records. So when you try to run the query on the top of a table, the performance might drop. You need to add an index on a specific column or mixed columns. And also like foreign keys. Foreign key. So let us say when you have a master table and child tables, so you need to restrict the child table, let us say, so departments was there. So while adding a employee, department should exist in a table. So like that, you need a foreign key. These are all which helps you to implement a business rules in a application in a database. So we'll talk about clearly with a practical examples on each and every business rule or constraints or keys. So these are all the very the basic terms which you will be using in your daily life in an application. So that's all. Let's meet in the next video with a different concept. So not only this, if you have any questions on the SQL Server or Power BI or Azure, please drop your question in the comment section. I'll try to answer as soon as possible. So also follow me on Facebook for more technical updates. Thank you for watching.